Thanks to our sponsors Renault. The Renault Capture, the versatile compact family SUV.
You're still the one I run to, the one that I belong to. You're still the one I want for life.
A grain of rice, a grain of rice is going to tip the scale. Just remember that, lad.
There's a small bit of a needle there.
Now, come on, Mayo, you've got to get Andy Moran into the game.
Our mission was to show that we're no longer the whipping boys of Munster.
Morning, gentlemen. We're back. We're back live. How are you all?
Great.
Very good, boy. Very good.
Good stuff. Hoagie, nice of you to join us. You have the shades there, I think, of you.
I do indeed, Dalo.
Full Mark Landers.
Mr. Landers inspired me there a few weeks ago with his cross-ons and his shades, so I said I'd see could I follow suit.
Suit you. Live this morning, no expense spared, live from Mallorca this morning. And Hoagie, if you get a half an hour today, could you go over to Magaluf and see, could you find Miss Una Daly and see she's doing okay? I had to revolute her money last night, Hoagie. That's not a great sign. And she's only gone since Monday, like.
Oh, jeez, right.
She's gone to water slides today, like.
Yeah.
Nice of you to join us, Hoagie. Take time out of the holiday. Or is it a junket from work, Hoagie? Are you overselling whiskey? Or?
No. Look, unlike Mr. Landers, you know, I have to pony up this out of my own pocket. You know, it's we don't get these nice business gigs. So
well, I tell you now,
really falling off the stool there.
Pony up and out of my own pocket. That's something that Brian Hogan, you certainly haven't done for the Come On Racing Club, anyway.
I don't know where this is coming out of. And I have Landers, send me on your bank details. I'll wire you the money. I kill this day.
No.
This is scandalous.
Just go. Listen, I'm not creating technology. But all you have to do is go on to www.comeonracing.ie and hit the button that says pay now. Now, we don't have a special one for the former Kilkenny players, but we might make one like.
Oh, Jesus, Landers, I'll happily do it at this stage. Just this is scandalous. I want to be legal representatives after this.
And then, Mark, Brian can be our ambassador for Goran Park then, can't he?
Oh, 100%. Himself and Charlie Carter, the two of them.
And Charlie, yeah, perfect.
Mm-hmm. And Hoagie, you slipped up because if you were a paid up member, you'd have got the information about Literatus at 33-1 on Thursday night.
Yeah, I understand.
Finished second. We were in the winners' enclosure, Hoagie, by with about 25 or 30 members. What a night! What an evening! Now, great crack. What's the DJ?
Super, yeah, really good.
Well done.
Yeah.
You've great jobs. That's all I can say. You've great jobs.
We're getting close. Well, it was on 8:10 now, in fairness. Like, so myself and Mark work full days, 9 to whatever, 6 or 7, Monday to Friday.
You don't give much back to your clubs as well, I suppose. That's the other side of it, like, you know. That's the other
we were all done with the club.
From that now.
We were done,
we were all done, Dalo.
And Tuesday and Thursday.
And with the next generation. And the next generation coming up behind as well, like, you know.
Yeah. And actually, while we're on leisurely talk, last Friday, Dalo, myself and Marco, we went to play a game of golf here in Limerick with South Liberties. We got invited. Yeah.
I was invited. Punchy invited me.
You were in Paris, yeah. Well, my team definitely made a record. We played one hole. We started on the 10th. We managed to play down to the 10th. Then a deluge of rain came and the foghorn went off. We were called in. I happened to be just arriving back in the car park, trying to put my clubs in the rain into the boot. Mr. Landos arrived on. I said, Mark is called off. And to which he goes to me, great.
It's a bit like my attitude to the golf. Great.
So we had a few beverages, Mark, and things kind of were quieter than normal. So I think they're trying to run it maybe more professionally later in the year. In fairness, the South Liberties is always a great day out. So myself and Mark ended up in Davy Clark's bar in Bruff. What a great spot to end up in, yeah. And not sure exactly how this happened. I'm still asking Mark, I said, how we got round to this. We ended up playing 45 under the telly inside the door in Clark's, right? So we took on the cream of the crop in Bruff. Guys who like to talk about themselves being really good 45 players. Myself and Mark were drawn together. Clarkey was playing, yeah, and a couple of his locals.
And we cast names, Dalo. And who came out together?
The two of you.
No. He's well handicapped, right? And I was carrying top weight, but we got drawn together. So we were a good match.
You won the money anyway. I saw a picture of you waving 20s.
Go on, TJ. Finish it off, kid.
We had a couple of rubbers, but it came down to the third rubber. And just for people listening out there, so I learned something new. But in 45, Marco tells me that a rubber in Cork is 2 games. So
best of 3.
I've ever heard of that. Yeah. So in Limerick, it's always first 2-3. So yeah, we played for a few, Bob.
That's a marathon now. 3 games out,
first to 3
in 45.
First to 3, but we were under the cash in the third one, which was kind of the winner take all, and I think we were 2 down, and was having massive drums. Yeah, talk about celebrations. Like there won't be as big a celebration after whoever wins the All Ireland final. We just kind of danced around the pub. We didn't really rub it in that much, Marco, did we?
Dalo, it was 42-25s, right? Clarkey was 40 for the money, and he was sitting beside me. I got a trick with the 4 of clubs. Clubs are up. Then I got a trick with the 9 of diamonds. And I produced the 3 of clubs. Last puck of the game. Back of the net. Myself and the lad, we triumphed for the game of cards. I can tell you, I never see Clarkey's jaw down to the floor.
I did. 1995.
He was to my right hand side, so he had to pay me, which is even more pleasurable.
Yeah, I can picture Larry on Twitter as we speak. He said they're 6 minutes in and they're still talking about 45 in Davy Clark's last Friday.
Marco, they're looking for a rematch
me in for later on in the year. I won't play 45 and I might play the golf.
Yeah, and just a shout out to Dermot Barry as well, who was the captain of Ballyneety. In fairness, Dermot works with me, and I hadn't seen him for 5 or 6 years. We dragged him along to Bruff with us as well. So thanks, Dermot, and we'll definitely get back to Ballyneety and represent the club.
Yeah, fair play, Chi. There's no doubt when you meet up, all right, there's a dangerous combination. I'm hoping the GA would go back to the extended season so I can keep away from you for a bit longer. stay busy for 2 weeks' time. It could be dangerous after that. But anyway, yeah, and we'll talk horses later on a small bit. Larry's in kind of holiday mode, like you know, Huggy. He's going, I think, Sunday, so he's kind of he's anxious. We were down there yesterday, down in Keary's. Our thanks to Renault, sponsors of the show. Great welcome there. It got rough in the showroom, and the Kenyan from Tipperary had to step in between myself and Marco. It was like the toss in the 1999 Munster final.
Great picture.
He was picking heads. Yeah, TJ's in the boot of the capture there behind.
There's a very small boss in your hurling market, no?
Yeah. Well, Dalo got the goalkeeper's hurley, you see. I'm on the traditional hurley.
That's my own hurley. That was Larry's from when he was under 16.
It's pretty new looking, Dalo.
Okay, right.
Yeah. Huh?
It's pretty new looking.
Oh,
just
yeah.
bought it. Yeah.
Yeah, made by Skehels in Ardrahan. Sent it down to me. Fair play. Lovely hurley. It was used last night in training. It was used last night in training for about 40 minutes by Mr. Bobby Duggan, former Clare star, who's back to his best nearly, and broke his hurley. We won't say how. It wasn't great, Bob, but take a loan to mine. I said, do you want to keep it? And he said, no. So I tell you what Bobby thought of the hurley. But anyway, no, lovely stick. Great stuff, lads. We said we'd leave it till Friday. We knew Hogan would be able to join us when he'd come back from the water slides and things. So it's Clare Kilkenny tomorrow. Great old listen for people now, I'd say, going up in the cars tomorrow and Sunday as well for people who don't get a chance this evening. I know it's Friday evening, like you'd be going for your pint on Friday evening and discussing tactics and waiting for the teams. Unbelievable, lads, how quiet the build-up is in one way. All Ireland semi-final, maybe it's the split season. I know, Mark, you won't agree, but like it's the lack kind of, isn't it, a bit of the press nights and things? But sure, if you're a manager now, you'd have 4 weeks possibly. I know Kilkenny did have 4 weeks in Limerick, but you know, the Clares and the Galways, 2 weeks, you're not going to waste a night or any part of a night in the 2 weeks because what have you, 4 or 5 sessions and they'd be light, maybe 2 good ones. You're not going to waste it on press coming in for an hour and a half for that, etc. So I think you can't blame it, but it does lend to maybe lack of coverage, lads, on newspapers, radios, etc. Even if they're only sound bites. And none of us ever said too much, I suppose. We learned from Kilkenny not to be saying too much. like bringing on Hoagie on this show now, we can get a mine of information about the team in a couple of minutes. But no, back in the day, you'd never get anything. But at the same time, the soundbite still made headlines. Do you think that's, TJ, that's something? Is it something that's maybe, a few people said to me, you'd hardly know what was on. You know, and all the talk about eye gouging and fighting and everything last weekend and, you know, that kind of thing. And I don't know, look, maybe it's a whinge from me about nothing.
Yeah, I did hear John Kiley and the Limerick guys. They did some bit of a press evening, all right, and I did see Henry did a few bits as well. In fairness to him, but just what you said there about sound bites, I just think that all squads now they're really well prepared. They give away very, very little anyway, and we'll probably come to it in a while. And like the points I have for the weekend is how our team's fixed in terms of injuries. Where are all the key personnel at? And it's going to be a question about Limerick as to what is the actual situation with Peter Casey and Cian Lynch? Are we looking at a possibility of one of them or two of them being in the 26? I think we are. You mentioned already maybe possibly Aidan McCarthy could be in the 26 for Clare. And then we have, let's say, a Galway situation where we don't know what Gerard McInerney is. And we try to find out these things in these. And these are the type of things that make the headlines during the week. And then the reporters, the Larrys and these boys of the world have been very good to probe in these press nights to find out a little bit of extra nuggets of information which make the news. So I suppose from my point of view, I know that around Limerick there's plenty to talk about it. Definitely the Cian Lynch and Peter Casey piece is making plenty noise around here to know where they're at, and we don't know is the answer. And I happened to be actually in a funeral in Galway yesterday evening. Selector in St. Thomas's with me, Kenneth Larkin, just sent this to him. He lost his mum during the week, and I met a couple of Galway lads up there, and all the chat was about the game, and there was a bit of banter going on. So I think maybe under the cover, there's plenty of chat going on about the weekend, so we just mightn't see it maybe making the headlines in the paper, as you said. But, no, I think the hurling folk among the four teams, there's plenty of chat about it. Interestingly, Dalo, I just looked at so obviously Limerick have played the least with the 5.5 games through Munster, obviously winning. Kilkenny had 6 games, we'll say, with the 5 games in Leinster and Leinster final. Clare have had the 6.5, and Galway have had the most, which is 7 games, right? But the actual scoring averages across the 4 teams, right? Scoring averages, scores for. There's only 1 point between the 4 teams, right? Limerick and Clare are both.
He's up all night, lads. He's up all night.
Limerick and Clare are both averaging 127. Kilkenny Hoagie are averaging 224, which is the same, and Galway are averaging 126 across their games. So we're heading into a weekend where we've 4 teams, and there's 1 point in the scores for between the 4. Even scores against it, there's very little in it. So statistically, the way it is now, how do you weigh up how much of a little bit of a favour does the extra time give Clare and Limerick? Then from Munster, you're kind of looking over Leinster and saying, well, these boys played Laois and Westmeath, so how much of a favour does that swing back to Munster? So it's interesting, and I think a little bit optimistically, I think there'll be all camps looking at this weekend saying, do you know what, we've a good chance here.
Yeah, I'd say.
We'd like to thank Collie Ryan there for producing the stats there for TJ. Come on, Collie. Done a great job. He obviously had a selectors meeting during the week, and he produced the stats then as well. So fair play. But I feel a bit like the odd man out there here today, like, because the 3 of you are still left in championship. And I was actually thinking to myself this morning that your kind of head is going away the fact that we're out of championship and somebody else is going to list the Liam McCarthy this year, and there's a bit of that around Cork at the moment. And then obviously you see the speculation.
Like it's 2005, like, since you lifted it, so you must be getting kind of used to that. Somebody else. Well,
we were in the All-Ireland final. When was the last time you were in Croke Park? Like, come on now, like, it was probably for probably some rock concert or something. Most of your lads are there, so you definitely will be travelling in force. Like, and you've no complaints about Croke Park because you're always giving out about going to Park Equive. So, but anyway, your favourites this weekend now, and I hope that won't throw you off course. Like, the fact that you're favourites.
You'll be shouting for your Munster compatriots, I suppose, all the way. Like,
well, we'll get to that now in a minute. Like, we're traditionalists down here in Cork, like, so we'd have a strong feeling towards Kilkenny as well, like.
Yeah, you would, yeah. The Stepford wives, as they. Hoagie, how's the build-up in Mallorca in the Irish bars?
Oh, savage! It's a talk around the village here. Pedro down the road, he just can't wait for it. But he's up to 90. He is. I just think of their Landers and TJ and the story they're telling. There's an awful hint of the hustle or the colour of money off it. The boys driving around in a car, fucking calling into bruff there and doing nice gentlemen out of their pocket money and heading onto the race course and hustling the boys out in the winners' enclosure. Who's Paul Newman and who's Robert Redford?
You're right.
Cowboys, the two of them. But anyway,
we are nice fellas. Nice fellas.
Yeah,
I think you could be
right. Take their money.
I think you could be
Hoagie,
right, Hoagie.
you know-
They're two hustlers, by it.
Ah,
There's no doubt about it.
And
Hoagie-
Dalo trying to earn a crust here, you know.
Correct. Me
And
here
Louise,
with the
and Louise is
lads
driving
from-
the car.
Me
Get
here
back
with
out.
the lads from the Shannon men's shed after calling to me after being out to Scattery Island on a day out, and they called in for a couple of pints on the way back to Shannon. And I said, I have a horse going here, lads. Joe Kelly and all the boys, and which one? What colour is he there? Oh, each way, lads. I said, we're roaring, trying to roar at Rory Cleary. Is that the jockey's name? Yeah, to push her out further. But they all got their few bob back anyway with the each way. But the two boys are below, and there's a free bar and stuff like that. And it's just Hoagie, we're not living at all, kid.
No, we're not.
It's
we're
me
not.
to you in Mallorca, like. That's the other side.
Hoagie, one of these days, Hoagie, we'll call for you. We'll bring you
That's
on
what
the
I'm
road
worried
trip,
about,
Hoagie.
TJ. That's what I'm worried about.
Just tell the wife you won't see her for a couple of days.
Stop, you're off and min. So let's down to we're on a clock, like, and we're 15 minutes gone already with the build-up discussed. Yeah, Mark, you wouldn't be talking about it, but...
yeah, on the build-up, Dalo, you're right, though. It's, you know, I mean, obviously, Kilkenny, they're talking about it. You know, we had a match against Rhinos, their challenge match last weekend, and the boys were up pucking around, Paddy and Hugh, whatever else. And, you know, like, you'd leave them off. You're not going to ask the boys about the match, you know, you wouldn't put them in that position. But in general, the conversation is, it's only starting to build up, and it's such a short run in, you know, and we've talked even at a national level about the opportunity for a midweek show to kind of, you know, review the matches in more detail, give some of the other counties a bit more exposure earlier in the championship, etc. You know, with the shortened or condensed season, there is a real sense that it's kind of just been rushed through. You know, you're missing out. You know, double headers on the weekends, and we've talked at length. I know you've made your views on it. Like, historically, you'd have the week between, you'd build up for one semi-final, you'd analyse it, you'd assess it post the semi-final and then build up to the next one. We don't have that opportunity. So and then with the condensed season, it really feels like it's, you know, we'll be into the final and it'll be over before we know it, you know. But anyway, that was my topic on it. It's a pity, you know. There's two fantastic games this weekend now, you know, and it does feel like there's a little bit of a sense of kind of almost they're on us before we realise it, you know.
Yeah, we had a bit of lunch. We had a bit of lunch there yesterday, just after we had the photo shoot, and we were with Tony and Larry, myself and Mark, and fair play Tony for buying the lunch. Nice to stump up. But we were just saying even 3 more weeks would kind of give us that bit of breathing space. And I don't think it'll affect the club stuff, lads. I honestly don't get that sense. I know, Mark, now you're off and do Hello or playing Muskerry and Killy or playing CIT, and I know the Cork Championship is everything, but I don't think 3 weeks will even affect you.
No, that's just the divisional stuff in the colleges. That's the kind of preliminary stuff. But we'll be having a discussion again at a later date about what your county, Clare, and the county in Wexford, when we had Tom Dempsey on, that year totally going against the spirit of the split season, telling clubs that wait till the inter-county team is finished and then we'll start the championship. That is not the protocol from Croke Park. The protocol from Croke Park is the championship starts the 24th of July. I just want to confirm that we will be having another discussion on that about your county and Wexford.
Clare gave a provisional date, right? I think of the 9th, 10th for the start of the hurling. And then with the one proviso, if Clare are in the semi-final or the final, we'll be going back till after the semi-final or the final. So that's all.
Dalo, one of the points I was going to make is you're kind of saying about the season being so condensed. Yet we're in a situation where for Kilkenny, right, like they've had one championship game in 6 weeks. Right, they had 2 weeks break into the Leinster final. They played the Leinster final. They're waiting 4 weeks. In Limerick's case, it's one championship game in 7 weeks. So it is kind of like strange to be kind of saying this is really, really condensed and everyone's kind of playing regularly. But then we have 2 teams who won their 2 championships waiting so long. And I was going to ask Hoagie there just to give us maybe a flavour of Cody, in fairness, has been masterful at using that break of, let's say, 4 or 5 weeks historically between the Leinster final and the All-Ireland semi-final. So what would be going on, let's say, in Kilkenny training for the last month? Hammering tongs, 15 on 15s?
I say when I was playing, which is going a few years now, but you're right, that gap, you know, I suppose we had it down. He would have allowed the players back the week post the Leinster final. You go back to your clubs to be 1, if not 2 rounds of club matches. And what we found, like, and obviously, look, there's a risk that lads get injured, but there's a risk they get injured in training as well. And it was very much his outlook was very much, you know, your club players first. And I would have seen the benefit of it, that certain lads are kind of stuttering through the early stages of the championship. They go back to the clubs, they're gone stale, they just can't get a bit of momentum. They go back to the clubs, they play 1 or 2 rounds, they may shoot the lights out. You know, there's 2 or 3 in particular that come to mind. And they come back and they're completely rejuvenated. They have a couple of points after, you know, a good competitive league match at the club. There's a release. And as well, like I often found, any more than 4 weeks in together and things just become Groundhog Day. It becomes stale, you know. Whereas if you go out for a week, come back, 3 weeks is nearly ideal, you know. A week to recover, a week to build up, and then a week to kind of wind down in preparation for a match. But that was generally the way we worked at TJ. But yeah, like if you're to have like kind of a 3 or 4 week, you're coming off a Leinster final now, it's very much a kind of a recovery week. It's very low intensity. Then that weekend, the following weekend, and you're starting to build it up. And that middle week is where you do a lot of the kind of, you know, full contact. You know, you might train. I know the boys went away on a training weekend. You know, that's generally where you'll kind of do a condensed kind of amount of work in a short period of time, and then it's really kind of tapering it down. You know, making sure as far as freshness. You know, that's all we heard was making sure you're fresh, making sure, because again, from a physical perspective, the work is done, months ago. It's just keeping, you know, keeping it tipping up. So it's more, you know, you're not doing any long runs. It's all that kind of short reaction stuff. It's all sharpening in preparation for the next match, the semi-final. So it's very much that kind of middle week where you'd be doing any of the kind of heavy contact, you know, the usual skin and hair flying matches. You do try and replicate the match you're going to be going into. It's 15 aside. You do 2 or 3 of those, you know, maybe 3/3, you know, where you do 50-minute block, high intensity, come in, assess, go back out, 50-minute block. Or if it's not going well, 3 minutes and he blows the whistle and you know you're in trouble because he'll call you in and he'll make it very clear how that's not what he's looking for, and you go out and then you'll see the level. But that's generally the way it works. So yeah, the boys would have had a couple of heavy sessions, but it's not, you know, you can't flog lads for 3 weeks either. It's you know, it's fairly measured. It's fair, look, the same in Limerick, the same in Clare. It's very scientific now that they're nearly listening to the S&C guys and the hurling coaches. More so, they're the guys that nearly dictate what they feel is necessary, you know. And it's almost getting to a point now, or at least it should be, where certain players are being pulled maybe because of the workload. They feel, actually, you know what, this guy is maxing out. We don't need him to take this session, you know, for fear of a hamstring injury or whatever. And that's the way it's gone. But yeah, typically that's what we would have done.
Everything is so techy now, I'd say as well. Like, you know, they know exactly the strength and conditioning guys. They know exactly if a guy needs to be pulled. And I think managers just listen now, whereas probably traditionally, I'd say, going back even further now to Lucknan's time, like he'd call it, like, no matter what the physical fella said, he'd be telling he needs a bit more, but he might be wrong, but he'd go on his gut, like. Whereas now, if you take on one of these guys, you have to ultimately trust them, don't you? That you have the preparation right, and we trust you. It's all part of the management team.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, I was chatting to someone. We'll have to keep the names out, but you know, personal circumstances arise, and there was a conflict of one of the training sessions and whatever else, and you know, but there was no question that person wasn't going to be at the training session. You know, that was the first and foremost. But the ironic thing was, if the physio had stepped in and said, actually, do you know what, I don't want that lad taking part in this session for A or B, there would be no questions, no issues. Grant, sit it out, don't even talk out, sit in the stand. You know, if it comes from a medical perspective, no bother. But if it's, you know, there's a personal situation arises, well, I don't, you know, you're here training, so it's power that the guy is the medical side, which, you know, rightly to an extent, rightly so as well. You know, it's no one wants to be breaking down this time of year.
Yeah, well, TJ, like, the only thing with that is, I know it's the 7 weeks, and I think John Kiley wouldn't have had it any other way, and Brian Cody, like, that's the value of winning the provincial title. you get your destiny in your own hands. You can plan out. You can have a break till the Friday, maybe. You can plan, whereas you don't have to go into the cesspit of the quarterfinals, like where we saw Galway scraping through somehow by a point, and Clare looked like they were gone. So I don't know, like we could just play the Munster Championship and Leinster Championship, lads, and finish it off in April if you want, and play the finalists, play each other, Kilkenny and Limerick, and just play away the old final there, like the Kilkenny Football Championship. If it comes to that, we can go down that.
We're not going down that rabbit hole.
Yeah. Anyway,
Dalo, in relation to Clare, I suppose I think they have a couple of questions following on from the last day. So first of all, the freeze, obviously they didn't go well. I watched back the Munster final again, and actually Tony actually missed 2 in the second half of the Munster final, and then Peter took over, and then the last way taken over again. Do you see a change there?
I probably do, but I thought I'd see a change the last day, TJ, if I'm being honest. I thought Dougie would hit him. He'd be the more recognised free taker. People might find that hard to believe of a certain vintage, but Tony traditionally didn't take frees. Dougie took him in 18, let's say, when he was around, when he's all-star and things. So, I probably would. I'd like to see it as well. I'd like to just see Tony that taken off him. That he just go and play his game and concentrate on that and not have to worry about hitting frees, because I think your man is a more regular free taker anyway. Tony can be unbelievably accurate. He just a couple he missed, I suppose, in the Munster final, and then a couple early on the last day. So I don't know. Look, it's be Brian's call. It might be Tony's call in lots of ways. If he feels he wants to.
That's one of the questions. And the other question I was going to throw at you is, I suppose the cornerback question is going to be like obviously interesting to see. Rory Hayes has been excellent up to, let's say, maybe a point. Like obviously the Waterford game didn't go well for him. Munster final didn't go well in terms of conceding scores, and then the last day we know what happened. Now maybe because of what happened in the incident in his head, might have been a little bit all over the place. So we grant him that, but that's a big call as well for Brian, isn't it?
It is, and Cian Nolan did really well, and Lee Chin was on form, but he manned up and did a fair job. And Rory wasn't. There was a lot of talk to Sunday night that he must have been carrying an injury, like 8 minutes gone. But he played against us the following day in the County League centre back and was outstanding, really. Like he was flying it, so there's no injury anyway. Maybe a hangover from potentially thinking I'm out of this thing. I'm gone, I'm out of it, and then you're back in on the Wednesday, and maybe that got inside his head, and maybe Brian felt that coming into the game. Kind of said he'd chance him. Things didn't go well early on, and whipped him early. So I don't know. Lohan will be. Do you know what, lads? There's a lot of similarities. No, how can you compare Cody to anybody as a manager? But there's all similarities between even the Brian and Brian. But 2 fullbacks, 2 dogged characters,
baseball caps.
2, and they do it their own way. I'd say if Lohan was, when he was thinking of going into this management crack, he would have studied a lot of what obviously Loughnane gave us, and he would have worked under various managers over the years, obviously. But I'd say Cody was one he looked at strongly as well, and I presume Kylie, I'd say Lohan would have taken on. He'd be a good student of that stuff, and but they even remind me of each other, to be honest, at times. So I'm looking forward to that as well tomorrow evening. I think that'll be fascinating on the line, like the master against the pupil, if you like. But Brian will call that. I'd say Cian Nolan is his type of defender, but there's no doubt Rory Hayes is a classy player, and
definitely.
He did have a bit of a bad, Seamus Flanagan did take him a fair bit in the Munster final, and maybe even Desi did in the last match against Waterford. So there's a few questions, but I'd say Rory could answer them. Would he get the call? I don't know. We'll know tonight, but I suppose we'll only really know when to take off the tracksuits tomorrow. That's in the warm up.
I think he probably will. I think he'll go with Rory as a tried and trusted and say, look, depending on how training has gone for the last couple of weeks. The other thing that was going to throw up maybe Brian and Marco here, it was like Cody has been, I suppose, probably one of the best at finding, what do you call it, the weak spot or the weakest link in opposition for years and years and years. So, like, what's he looking at here? The way Wexford maybe bombed a couple of high balls into Chin and McDonald and got scores. Are we looking at possibly maybe a Wally inside, Massey Keoghan, TJ Reid inside? Like, is that what we're looking at here, Brian?
Yeah, I think so. I think even thinking back to days, like you often found, sitting back, being in a privileged position of being in the semi-final already. You're looking at quarterfinals. You're looking at the opposition, and more often not, they either throw up chinks in the opposition you're going to be facing, or you spotted a style of play that they were implementing. I remember we played Tip one year, and in the match previous, we noticed in terms of their puckouts they were looking for Brendan Maher and Shane McGrath the whole time, which is obviously something they had been working on to avoid going long. So just even looking at the match previously, sitting back, watching that, you come into training on the following day or whatever, and you start chatting with, did you notice that? You know, and all of a sudden then a kind of a plan develops that, right, well, we're going to shut that avenue down. And, you know, you're sitting there and you're watching Wexford and they're delivering a couple of high balls in, and almost by chance, this kind of, you know, develops during the game where a couple of long balls went in, and, you know, the boys, Conor Cleary and the lads kind of struggled with Chin inside of McDonald's. And we know McDonald's is very strong in the air. But I think there's enough in that to offer kind of one outlet, you know, for Kilkenny to try and exploit. Whether they'll go straight from the outset and start someone, be it, you know, it might be a bit obvious going with TJ on the edge of the square. It could be, you know, I mean, look, to be honest, all the boys are pretty strong in the air. You know, Owen Cody is no slouch in the air. They may look to try and isolate, and what they've typically done is try to have Cody inside with maybe Billy Ryan. And then it'll be the delivery of ball. It'll be maybe get the ball and try and deliver it as quick as you can for maybe Paddy Deegan at an angle in, and look for Cody on the edge of the square or something like that. But I think at some stage they will go that avenue. You know, I probably would have myself felt there was an opportunity there, but I think Wexford was showing that definitely, whether you can win it cleanly or there's a break off it, that the lads didn't seem, you know, comfortable at stages with that kind of ball coming in, which is the kind of ball that Kilkenny lads love, you know.
And I suppose you can expect as well, though, Mark, that Clare will have learned from that as well, and John Conlon will probably, they'll set up slightly different maybe when John Conlon will be closer to the full back line, you know, for that break of ball. Because, okay, the first one went directly into the goal. You couldn't, you know what I mean? That's nothing, I suppose, they did their job. No one got a touch. Ever took his eye off it. Second one was a breaking ball, which Shin just reacted first to, and I suppose there was nobody really from the half-back line close enough to get back. And I presume the Clare management will have learned from that as well. Yeah.
But Anthony, like, there are so many things going on in the course of the game now, and every game, like, and I think fluidity is the big word that's being used now amongst forwards, backs, defenders out in the field. Some of these, you know, a lot of these moves are actually preempted in advance with chatting about it. And the players, very, very good players, can sense what's going on the field of play. And Brian alluded to it. Would they start that way, or would they change it up? Don't show your hand too quick. There's so many changes go on in matches now. There's a huge amount of tactics going on all the time. But for me, I don't really see TJ Reid with staying at centre forward for most of the game. I think for him, I think the closer to the square, from a Kilkenny perspective, I'd be keeping him as close to the square as possible, because, you know, we discussed Conor Cleary all year. He's a fantastic fullback, but he's going to get blown for frees. And as you often said, Dalo, he gets a yellow card every game, and there's nothing really, you don't really see anything serious. But, you know, from the last day, Gillan himself ended up with their hurleys in their opposite hands on 3 or 4 or 5 different occasions. But I think TJ Reid could end up full forward. And whether you have a Wally, you see, Brian, you probably have 9 forwards at the moment, and the question is whether he's going to start Wally or not. And, you know, going back to the original point that TJ made, to bring in a rabbit out of the hat, when Wally started against Johnny Cohen and got man of the match, we all thought it was a smokescreen, it was a dummy team, because nobody had heard of Walter Walsh before. Yeah. And Johnny Cohen was a hurling out of his skin for Galway the same year. And when he goes in, I don't know, they got a goal and 3 points off him in the All-Ireland final. So, like, Brian Cody is a master of those types of decisions. But it's mainly a fella that you've never, ever heard before, and it's normally in an All-Ireland final. So, you know, Cian Kenny came on there against Dublin. I'd never really taken any major note. He got 4 points in play from corner forward, and he looked really, really tasty. So I think, Anthony, I suppose, look, will Conlon sit back? Yeah, he will. But John, I suppose both himself and David Fitzgerald weren't brilliant the last day, and Clare got over the line. I can see a big performance coming from the two of those lads on Saturday. The question is what their role will be, obviously, but John Conlon is just, he's key for ye to perform. So I don't know whether I'd want him sitting back. I think if TJ Reid goes in full forward, I think John Conlon might end up maybe sitting at the edge of the D. Outside of that, Anthony, I think Clare will probably push on and go 6-on-6. I would be guessing now, or like if TJ does happen to be centre forward, Clare aren't going to leave him loose. I can't afford to leave a perfect TJ Reid loose. So there's an awful lot of stuff, Anthony, that's going to happen and unfold in front of us. And a lot of it, I think, will be dictated by the 15 lads on the field of the play, because they'll have a lot of it discussed in advance.
Yeah, and even with that, like, I know they're brilliant hurlers, obviously, but you can go kind of a route one, say there's weakness there, let's get it in there early. You can overcook one, then maybe Richie Reid just overcooks one, it goes harmlessly wide, and then the crowd, you can hear them moan, and then maybe they're saying, Jesus. And they're in danger of pundits coming on at halftime saying this is
old school stuff.
Ancient hurling here, and the players like to be seen to be up to scratch and all that. So there is a little danger in that, Hoagie, that you can't really prescribe 100% what goes on.
Yeah, no. Look, I suppose we're talking the elite level. There's no county team goes out and goes, this is how we're going to play. We're going to lurry the ball in long to the edge of the square and be one-dimensional. Like you're expecting the players, and Mark mentioned the fluidity. You're expecting the players to understand what is happening in front of them, play what's, and that's the way Brian would. You're looking at what if a move needs to be made, make it. He would have always had the forwards. There's no constraints on it. If you see an opportunity where you think you need to go into the edge of the square, whatever, do it. So like if that means, but you will have an A, B, and a C in terms of kind of how you would like to try and play. So it will at some stage look to try and isolate. For years, look and try and isolate power on the edge of the square. If we saw Richie on the edge of the square, you inherently know, okay, if we can get an angle ball in there, he's so good in the air, he plays on the shoulder. So players will understand that, So that's, I suppose, what I'm saying. And you mentioned, Conlon will sit back. Clare are going to know. And so if Conlon does sit back, well, what do you do? Well, then you have to try and look, is the centre forward available? Can you pop a couple of balls to centre forward, which then forces Conlon to make a decision? Well, I need to push out, or I need to pull a guy back to hit him. But just on the Kilkenny forwards, I mean, we have about 9 guys there, but there's very few of them have shown any consistency. They've started, they've been poor, and guys have come on and played well. And when they got to start the next day, they've been put, aside from maybe 2 or 3 guys. So you're hoping, for a few more guys to step up to the plate now on tomorrow. But equally, what that does is, because there's no set 6, the Clare 6 forwards are much more settled. So you could say Hugh Lawler knows exactly who he's marking, Dublin coming in there. From a Clare perspective, Conor Cleary could be marking any of 6 forwards. He could have Mossy Keown there, he could have TJ there, he could have Wally there, he could have Cody. He doesn't know which one of the 6 forwards. And the likelihood is he'll probably have 2 or 3 of them at different stages during the match. So
could he have a namesake of yours from Danes Fort, one Richard Hogan, who rumor mill has it that the boy might be starting to move well, and Mr. Cody himself would be coming to the conclusion that he's ready to play a part. That's circulating around the Banner County, Hoagie, this week.
So look, we all love a good rumor mill. You can't beat him. So, but I've heard the same. I suppose there's murmurings that there's a surprise or a change, or in terms of selection. Again, the talk is that possibly Richie is in contention to start, which would be great. I mean, he's been plagued by injuries. The guy has, it's well documented over the last couple of years. And he's had to almost do his own thing, if you like, with the medical team, just to try and keep himself moving. It would be fantastic to see him back on the field, in Crow Park. I know he's been extremely busy. Obviously, he's just finished up work with the GPA. He's studying an MBA, and he's also hurling. So he's taken a step back now from the work, because he's himself and his wife are planning to do a bit of traveling at the end of the summer or whatever else. So I think he's very focused on making a big push now, for this weekend, and hopefully for another day out. So I mean, look, I've heard the same rumors. I'd love to see him starting, or at least coming on at some point, because
I think everybody in the country would, Brian, except Clare people, I suppose. He's that good. He's a game changer. Hoagie, can I just ask you as well about TK? The speculation is that Mikey Butler would pick up TK. he did it the last day with Carl Mannion, and he was way up the field at times. And
Yeah.
the stories about Mikey, like doing the water and training and all that, is that factual? Like that he would have been knocking around there and helping out, and what a find he has been. I know you'd know more about him than most of the country.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how Mikey got in. Like, I mean, Brian would keep the camp fairly tight. You know, even the backroom team would be fairly lean. And but yeah, there was 2 or 3 seasons there where Mikey was Rackard's helper. Rackard being our kit man. So Mikey would have been in the dressing room, probably 11 or 12, and you know, Mikey was hurling mad. You know, as all kids are that age, and he was in throwing the milk and the Lucas Aid and whatever else into the bags, and he was out in the pitch. Then he'd be after training, and you know, sure, TJ or Henry or the boys would be practicing frees or whatever, and there'd be Mikey behind the goal pucking it back to him. And picture popped up on my phone there actually of a club match we were playing Ballyhale out in Thomastown, and he was handing me a bottle of water, and I sent it on to him after lunch. I was like, Jesus, lots changed in a few years, lad, you know. And Paul Murphy sent me an image of Richie after the Blade of Wexford, Richie Hogan standing beside Lee Chin swapping jerseys, and Mikey standing beside him waiting for the jersey, and Richie was like, Jesus Christ, he says, I never swapped jerseys for no reason, it was just something I never did. He said, Mikey asked me for Lee Chin's jersey, and he says, of all lads to be standing beside swapping jerseys, he goes, Lee Chin, he goes. So but Mikey was water by that time. So yeah, he was in there for a few years, and I suppose as he got older then, you know, that kind of had to move on. But no, great young lad. And yeah, look, the talk obviously is that he's in pole position, I suppose, potentially, if Brian so decides to do a man-to-man job on Tony Kelly, that he will pick him up. Go on, TJ.
That'd be interesting, Brian, because what I could foresee there, you said Peter Duggan picked up Hugh Lawler. I actually think Peter Duggan will line up at 11, right? And I think that Clare will expect Mikey Butler to pick up TK, who will then position himself at full forward, right? And they'll play with Tony Kelly and Ian Galvin inside, which now poses you guys a question: are you leaving Mikey Butler full back now on Tony Kelly, or are you kind of saying? So that's the kind of the tactical intrigue that's going to happen early on in the game here.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, exactly, and it's, you know, we would have had situations like that before where I'm trying to think, was it Corbett maybe came in, and you know, when we played tip, you know, but if he came into inside, JJ took him, you know, whoever came in, JJ. But once he went anywhere beyond that, I think it was maybe Jackie was detailed to pick them up. So I suppose what you want is to be very clear in terms of what you're trying to think of, all eventualities, and you'll be very clear so that when that happens, players have clarity in terms of what their role is. You don't want a situation where lads are turning to each other going, will you pick him up or will I pick him up? What we do? And I've no doubt, I mean, everyone is talking about the fact that it's probably Mikey that will pick him up. So I'm sure Clare will come with some sort of trick or game plan to try and, you know, throw Kilkenny a bit. If he starts on the edge of the square, I mean, I would let Hugh take him, and then if he does go wandering, Mikey knows then straight away. You just swap, and Mikey picks him up. I mean, the good thing with Mikey is he's no issues, unlike say myself or other lads where you get nosebleed when you went beyond midfield. Mikey is more than comfortable going up the field. What I really liked, the Galway match, he was in front of me there in the first half on Mannion. He wasn't just stuck to Mannion, you know, trying to stop him. As soon as Kilkenny gained possession of the ball, he was gone. He was forcing Mannion to mark him. He was gone, and he was looking for a return pass. He was looking to get on the ball. Maybe there's an opportunity for a point, you know, and that forced Mannion then to have to go, Jesus, you know, I'm marking him. So, you know, he's more than comfortable out the field, getting on the ball and playing. So that'll be like, that's a really intriguing battle if it does develop. Look, it's a huge ask for Mikey. He's had a great year, fantastic year. But I mean, really, this is the litmus test, isn't it? Like, I mean, of all the players in the country to be detailed to man mark, I mean, TK, and in the form he's in, I mean, no one's expecting him to hold his.
I suppose for Brian, look, going back to the Wexford game, and maybe there was a bit of a hangover on the full Clare team, but Shane Reck did an unbelievable job on TK, and it's actually when Shane Reck went off. Now I know Clare as a team were coming, but TK was part of that recovery as well in that last 15 minutes. But, you know, I don't think any two games are going to be the same, and I would be backing TK to turn up trumps no matter who is going to be marking him on Sunday, because your best players are still your best players. They may have an off day, but they know, and I know that Tony Kelly will know himself, that Clare's chances will revolve around, I think, his performance. Not only that, but if Tony Kelly goes well, I think the Clare team will go very well.
Yeah, that's a fair way of putting it, Mark. And you would, Shane Wright did a fair job. A lot of talk that he had a vomiting bug, and you hear all these things, sure, you don't know, but and that he wasn't that well all week. Don't know. But credit to Shane Wright, I suppose he did his job, and Wexford. The big thing for me is the learnings for Kilkenny, and you spoke about it, Brian, watching, being able to sit back and watch. And Wexford got a lot of their matchups right, like Conor Davis and Ryan Taylor. We didn't really see Taylor till the end of the game. Now, he did come up with a few big plays at the end, vital ones as well now, in our comeback. So I think he'll have learned a fair bit. So fascinating overall, TJ. Hard one to call. Tis like the deaf dog. It's hard to call. The other one will probably be set opinions on it. I mean, you might be a little bit different now, and you'll be playing the three clubs. But this one is hard to call.
I think so.
Form-wise, Kilkenny, we hadn't seen them. Topsy-turvy in Leinster, came trumps in the Leinster final, as is their way. Clare, fantastic Munster final, roller coaster. Had to try and dig it out against Wexford. Did dig it out. So hard to call where everybody is at.
Yeah, I think maybe there's a bit of improvement in maybe all teams required over the weekend, and maybe whichever team finds that maybe piece that over those coming weeks. Like, it is possible that Cody could find maybe 10% in the 4 weeks, and he just might have him humming. Patrick Walsh isn't the fellow we spoke about, which there was question marks about the Leinster final as to why he didn't start. Now, will we see him? Who'll be in the middle of the field? Adrian Mullen has been scoring well and doing well from the middle of the field. So I suppose they are the question marks. I just think, Dalo, since the start of the championship, that Clare and Brian Lohan's curve is on the way up, right? They haven't been beaten in 70 minutes. We know, obviously, Limerick beat them in extra time in the Munster final. You'd have to be impressed the way things went wrong for them. Like, there was a 6-point swing with the ball from Ian Galvin that hit the crossbar, that went down and ended up in the net. And usually in games, when things like that go against you, you can kind of end up saying, Jesus, it's not our day. They found a way. And that's what really good teams do. And you have to be impressed with that from Clare. There's no distractions into the semi-final either. Like that stuff that went on with the lads and potential suspensions, that doesn't help the chat on the place. That's gone. And as you said there, the panel, like Mark Rogers getting a bit of game time, like what Shanahan did the last day, and you said then he did afterwards for his club. I can only imagine that he's like literally chomping at the bit in training to kind of say, look at me, which is a big plus for the management team. And you've added in also that Aidan McCarthy potentially could be back, which was another big plus for Clare in the 26. That's driving standards even higher. That's kind of making sure the fellas in the first 15 are really on the ball and making sure they're minding the jersey. And I would say that whatever about Cody spitting in the hands, I'd say Lohan is definitely rubbing the hands as well this week. And I would say we're in for a tremendous battle. We also know that potentially these two games are play to finish. We could have extra time. We could have penalties. We won't talk about what happened last weekend, but that's also on the cards. But if you're asking me to call it, Dalo, to start the ball rolling here, I am going for a Clare victory here. I just would like to have seen all year. I think they'll win. Kilkenny have been beaten twice. I think there's a question mark about their midfield and their forward. Not so much the individuals, but maybe their forward makeup in general, right? And I just think, for me, Clare will shade this in normal time by a couple of points.
Okay. I won't ask Hoagie or myself to call it, because we know we'd be both giving the edge to our own fellas. Marco, I presume Conor Fogarty will play. He played the whole 70 minutes the last time midfield. I know there was James Maher, Killian Buckley, Richie Leahy. There was a lot of experimenting as to who Adrian Mullen's partner would be. But I think Conor Fogarty coming in, playing the full match, and they're winning well for a finish, that would decide that he'd play unless there's anything cropped up in the meantime. But Mark, what do you think overall? It is a fascinating one.
Anthony, I think you summed it up at the very start by saying it's a very hard call. I mean, the other semi-final I would suspect is a little bit easier. I'm a huge Kilkenny fan, as you know. Traditionally, I would be very, very supportive of them, and I think the month that they have had actually will be good for Kilkenny. I think there was a lot of emotion around the Leinster final. We saw that after the game, and I'm sure, you know, the week that went after that fellas were able to let their hair down. And it's great to be sitting back in the long grass, preparing for a semi-final, knowing you're there and you're going in as Leinster champions. I suppose you'd have to be. I'm really impressed with Clare since the start of the year, and not alone like for the Munster final, the match down in Ennis. Clare were excellent that day as well, and because Limerick were looking for, you know, the late score to equalise the game. Now Limerick didn't play with a full deck that day, which I suppose would have lent towards Clare winning it possibly. But I think overall, Anthony, Clare for me have done enough, and I know they're favourites, and it's been a while since they've been in Croke Park, but I think they have enough in the locker. Possibly, and I'm looking at. I'm actually where I'm looking is the Leinster final and the line of form, because I thought, having seen Galway up close against Cork, I thought they'd be slightly better, I must say. And going back to the Leinster final, I thought Galway, if they got one of the goals, they might have pushed on and won it. Now I think Kilkenny were deserving winners on the day, but there isn't much between those two teams. I know the Leinster fans will kill me for saying this, like, but with 15 minutes to go against Clare and Wexford, it looked like there was going to be 3 Leinster teams in the All-Ireland semi-finals. Now it's ended up with two Munster, 2 Leinsters. But I just think the form of the Leinster teams is slightly behind what we've seen in Munster. And I'm not being biased, it's just having seen the Galway-Cork game up close, I thought Galway would be better. So I'm a bit of a form student. We get it wrong from time to time. I'm going to stick my neck out here, Dalo, and go for your own county.
Oh, Jesus. You have it now, Hogan, you know, when he's after giving us the nod. The kiss of fucking death. Lord, don't be listening to this podcast on the way up, will you?
I'll see you tonight.
Yeah, it should be a cracker, lads. I find it desperately hard to call it. Who'd play well in the day? I think that's the thing. Like, if you're few of the big guns, if TJ Owen, Cody and them, if they play really well, you know, Adrian Mullen, it's hard to see Kilkenny beaten. If Kelly, O'Donnell, you know, that's the kind of way it is. Maybe off the bench. That's why maybe I think TJ, maybe you might, hard to see you'd ever say that about playing Kilkenny, but unsettled. I think he's tried 17 players from 8 to 15 in the 6 matches, and Richie Hogan would make it 18. That's a lot for Kenny, like traditionally. You know, we couldn't really name the team, but that's a feature, Brian, of, and we leave it at this because I know Larry's in the holiday mode and he's packing the bags and everything. But it's a feature maybe of, that's Cody. If you don't do the business, someone else will come in and do the business, especially with week-on-week games.
Yeah, Brian's always gone on about he's not interested in settled teams or settled positions. He picks on form, which is fine. But at the same time, we've a midfield. I know how many different combinations we've had in there. And Fitzgerald has been outstanding for Clare in the middle of the park. And Mullen is great going forward, but someone's going to have to pick him up. And okay, if Connor starts, Connor is probably the guy that'll be detailed to do it. But you do like a certain amount of consistency, or there to build kind of patterns. And TJ mentioned it. The forwards we have, there's been a lot of change in the movement, and some players have struggled to put 2 and 3 games together. So I'd be a little bit, that piece of it, you'd be a little bit worried about. But, again, to Mark's point, that lead in, that 4 weeks or whatever it was, Kilkenny, that's absolutely ideal. Like from a Kilkenny perspective, from Brian's perspective, that's what he loves. Getting hold of the lads, circling the wagons and building this kind of mentality, that we're going to war. And, from a Clare perspective, they'll experience a bit like what they faced against Limerick. That intensity, that claustrophobic kind of, intensity where they're going to be hit, they're going to be put in the back foot. Kilkenny are going to look to grind them down. They're not going to want a nice, open, free-flowing match, where Tony Kelly can roam the park. So, clash of styles, a clash of, players. I'm really looking forward. It's not too often we've played Clare in this stage of the championship over the last number of years. I think there was a sense of relief of us and Wexford having played each other so often before. That there's a freshness to it, and look, it's going to be a cracker. I can't wait.
Yeah, that's a very valid point. What Brian is saying there, Anthony, is that the fact that they haven't played each other a whole pile, that could lead to a real good cracker of a game, a lot of scores. There's no hassle. Do you know where some players will bring baggage from a game maybe last year or the year before? There won't be anything like that. And there'll be a lot of sussing out. I think this could actually be the game of the season.
Okay, if it trumps the Munster final, I'd say.
Oh yeah,
it's one of the greatest semi-finals ever. But I have a feeling as well. Yeah, there's no angst really. Yeah, it'd be good old rivalry, great league games over the year. We haven't met that often since '97. Great victory for us in '97. Kilkenny have had the best of it easily. Draw in 04. Kilkenny winning the replay. 06, a good game. Yeah. Late goal by Henry probably put the scoreline a bit lopsided, but good game, good battle. Lohan's last match, Shawnee's last match. So. Yeah, one of those things. Yeah, so looking forward to it. Can't wait. I'm on duty with Mr. Jackie Terrell. I think relations are so good, Hoagie. There's even talk of a pint afterwards between the two of us already. There's texts.
Who's reffing it? Is it Fergal Hogan or is it young Walsh?
Fergal Hogan and Thomas Walsh doing the fun day, Mark. So,
well, there you go now. I mean, there's the ingredients there now straight away. God, the referee could have a part to play here on Sunday or Saturday, I should say.
That's for sure. And look, really looking forward. I love the weekend for the semi-finals. I have to say, even if we were in the old format, longer season, I love the weekend concept. I think it's great. If the hotels in Dublin run a bit cheaper for the public, I think that's and the Limerick crowd know they're so good, Mark. They have all the rooms booked up.
They have them all booked, yeah.
The Cork lads don't be doing that anymore. There was a time you could book to Burlington when you were pulling out on the Monday to get the train. That's gone. Sunday, lads, 3:30, traditional time. 2 traditional big guns. Obviously, the big Kilkenny being the dominant force. Your team, Hoagie, obviously. Now the big giant is the big green giant. Going for the 4th All-Ireland in 5 years. Going for the elusive 3 in a row. Heady times, TJ, unbelievable times for you as a county, and I suppose everyone tipping that you'll win. I did honestly think that Cork should have beaten Galway, but I do think maybe Galway are slightly better equipped to take on Limerick with the physicality and the size of the men. Gerard McInerney would be a huge blow if he's out of the occasion, because that might mean a rejigging, and that probably brings Brian Concannon into the play from the start of the match, or one of them anyway. And I think Joseph Cooney.
You see Joe Cooney going backwards?
Well, if he does, it takes an awful lot away from Dermot Burns having to mark him and things like that. So great interest, TJ, in what Henry can come up with. And you have a bit of an insight there as well with Kevin. And what can they do? Like, you haven't really been in top form. It looked like everything was going nicely coming into the Leinster final. Malfunctioned the Leinster final. Not hectic the last day, but got there. So nice way for them to come into it as well.
Perfectly set up for them, I will agree. I felt the last time I said it here, I didn't think they got the credit they deserved for beating Cork. Like Cork were 2 points down, and then like Galway found a way again, and they went 5 points up. Again, the panel having Gerard McInerney fit will be key. Joseph Cooney is their top scorer from play with 217, which is some return so far. The league match this year, and I suppose we're all going to say that the league didn't really matter that much to Limerick, but it's psychologically Galway won that game. I know Gerard Hegarty was sent off, but the matchup and the physicality that night, and it looked like as if both teams got themselves ready to some degree to target that game. And Galway will take a certain amount of solace from that to say that they did match up physically, Dalo, and it did work very well for them. What are the real positives for Galway here? Just as you said there, they won the last day. They, as a unit forward-wise, they probably wouldn't have been overly happy. The other big positives for them is Conor Whelan looks like he's back to somewhere near his best, and that's a big plus for an inside forward. I think if they can get their half-forward line winning ball, and if they can get a better return on their own puck out, they'll have to do that. They'll have to do that. What matchups are we looking at here? Are we looking at Gerard McInerney following Hegarty? Are we looking at Finton perhaps possibly following Tom Morrissey?
You were saying that, TJ. Sorry, can I just cut in, TJ? You were saying that kind of on the Gerard McInerney, where everyone isn't really ruling him out, like.
My belief is that Gerard McInerney was...
Lally, have you been on to Kevin? Is he giving you a little bit of an insight? Jesus, the
Myself
cat
and
is out of the bag there,
myself and
Dalo,
Kevin
I'd
are
say.
good friends. Yeah,
He
My
kind of
belief is we're
jarred the
making-
knee more than anything, TJ. We all feared it was a ligament.
Correct. Yeah,
He jarred it,
I think
like.
I think Road McInerney will start, and I believe he'll pick up Hegarty. The key for Galway is Galway's full back line to date has played reasonably well. Darren Morrissey has gone very well. Obviously, we know Dies and Jackie O'Connor has played really well. What matchups are we looking at there? Darren Morrissey had been detailed already to pick up TJ Reid, and he did a good job. Will Darren Morrissey pick up Gillan and then Dahi Burke pick up Flanagan? I suppose that is the key question there, and I expect that to do, right. I think Galway will have to be brave.
Would you not think that, I know, but Gillan, like the knacky catching and that, would you not want Dahi on him? Like, and Darren has had a brilliant season, don't get me wrong, and Jack Grealish, as you said, outstanding, the last man in the match. Would you not want Dahi for just Gillan? I know TJ's brilliant in the air, don't get me wrong, one of the greatest ever in the air. Would match up with Richie Power, as Hoagie was on, but just Gillan's neck of maybe what we saw against Tip, the necky way from behind, and you want the real experienced, 4 or 5 time All-Star on him for that and stop that threat.
Great point, and I'm sure they'll have tossed that around, and I suppose that is one of the questions that we won't know for a while. But do you want Dahi away from the edge of the square then? That's the flip side of that, isn't it? Like more like Gillan is. Now I know, as Marco said a while ago, there's a lot of fluidity in the play anyway, but Gillan tends to play in that right corner, and I don't think they like to take Dahi away out of there. But they are some of the questions, and then you got Padraig Mannion. So like the bench for Galway the last day, they had a couple of guys who came on and got scores. Johnny Cohn, Jason Flynn, David Burke's been playing well in the middle of the field, steering them around. So the game management here, it's a different game for Galway. There's more physicality against maybe the pace of Galway around the middle. Like, Galway man-marked Darragh Fitzgibbon in the middle of the field the last day for Cork. So it will be interesting to see what they pinpoint in Limerick as to where they're trying to go after. Galway will have to be brave in all areas. They'll have to go after it. They'll need an increased performance from their forwards. But it's there. I think we all know it's there. And I think history will also tell us, and Brian probably will tell us as well, like there's always a day in Galway. There's always a day when things click for them, when their forwards can just open up and really have a go. And, going back the last couple of years, Galway haven't been far away from Limerick. Dalo, even like 2 years ago, hasn't been much in it. So I think there'll be a lot to be optimistic about. I know Limerick are favourites and entitled to be. They're unbeaten still. They're last year's champions. They're back in Croke Park. Their panel potentially will be getting stronger with the boys back. And look, there's an awful lot there. I suppose maybe from entitling Limerick to be maybe the people's favourites. The one question
Does Cian Lynch start?
I would say no for me. I didn't get a positive vibe off John's statement. I don't know is the answer to the actual question. I think he'd be in the 26, but I don't think he'll start. I don't think Peter will start. I'd say you'd be hoping at some stage they might be able to get some game time. But the 1 game in 7 weeks, will that be a factor or not? John and Paul and all the guys involved in the Limerick backroom team have proven over the last number of years that they're experts in having the team right for the day. And I suppose, look, I was talking to Ken Whelan in Tipperary races on Thursday, Mark, the former jockey, and jockey's agent now, and he was making the point to me that anybody could train a horse or anybody could train a team. But the difference with really good people is they can train a team or a horse for a day. That's the key.
Yeah. And it's a lovely, it's nearly a free build up to Hoagie, isn't it? Like Shefflin and this, like, picture now we're talking about the two lads Tip Clare to be in the final, like beating Kilkenny, right? Okay, whether that's wrong or right, I don't know. But like at the start of the year, if you were saying Henry going to Galway and the potential they had and all, and we didn't think there'd be a free shot semi-final for them nearly like that. No one would be giving them a chance. No one would be tipping them to take on the might of Limerick, and yet could be a day in them, like.
Yeah, you said it. There's always a day in Galway when they click. When we played them, that was the thing with them. If you gave them oxygen, they could hurry off the pitch. They had so many hurlers, they had so much ability. The idea was to keep them, to suffocate them, to make sure you didn't give them a chink of light that they felt they could go and hurl. So you're in your face, you're doing what you have to do. And I think there's no team better equipped to do that than Limerick, where they'll just physically impose themselves. They'll impose their own game from the outset. I do think like you can only go on what you've seen, over the season so far, over the last couple of games. And my fear for Galway is that we've talked about their physicality and they're big lads and their team are a big unit. But, I suppose in the backs for sure. And I think McInerney is a hugely important for them because, he's that anchor, if you like, and he had been having a good season, and it does allow Joe Cooney then to push up, and you can see some of the matchups working out nicely. My fear isn't the other end, is where outside of Conor Whelan are the big baller winners going to be when the match is in the melting pot. Against Kilkenny, they were all flat, but they never look like, they go up, looking at it as I look at, they went up hoping to win the ball as opposed to going up saying, I'm going to win this ball. When the ball goes down on top of Tom Morrissey or Hegarty, or you see it on its way, you're nearly backing the boys to win it. That's the way it is. And you're thinking, can you just keep it out of their hand? And it's the same with a couple of other players. Conor Cooney and Mannion, and they've had patches, but I wouldn't be confident that these guys are going to win the ball and grab the game by the scruff. And that's ultimately you're going to have to do. Someone's going to have to do that, to ask questions of that Limerick defence in some way. And I just, outside of Conor Whelan, who's been a consistent threat, but at times on his own, really, I don't feel the Galway forward they've loads of hurling, and they've loads of ability, and they can do it. But I just don't think, maybe whether it doesn't come naturally to them or what, just to really kind of step in and physically impose themselves. So I'm going to, and I know that's something that Henry will have been working on, and you can see it already. You can see in the last number of games the work rate, the way that they're tracking back and getting hooks. You think Cathal Mannion's block there, he was fully extended, broke the hurl block, and would he have done that last season or the season before? Maybe, but it would have been a bit more sporadic. Whereas you do see them, much more kind of committed to that style. But again, they're going to need to do that for 75 minutes. They're just going to need to be relentless, and then bring in the likes of your Evan Nylands and these guys off the bench, who again will shoot the lights out if the ball is popped out to them. But will they get down and dirty with Sean Finn and these guys and win a dirty ball and recycle it? That's the big question I have for Galway, because without doubt Limerick will do it, and they'll do it all day, and they can bring lads in that'll do it. They'll make the ball talk as well, but again, as we always say, you have to earn the right to hurl, and that's what Galway, I think, need to do. But saying that, they're neighbouring counties, and there's nothing like playing your neighbours and lads to bring you up a level. And I think Henry, again, as best as possible, will have these boys, have the lads prepared. So I think it'll be a cracker of a match. I think it will be close for most parts, but again, I just can't see anything other than the Limerick win, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that's what most people will be saying, Hoagie. Mark, I've watched Limerick now 3 times without Cian Lynch, and I'm not as in as much fear of them from a Clareman's point of view as when he's in the team. And I think he's the kind of Tony Kelly for Limerick, and when he's not there, I just don't see them as the monsters that they, the last 2 years they've been, and the 2 COVID All-Irelands, if you like, with half crowds and no crowds, and the lonesomeness of the whole thing. And they were a sight to behold, really, in full flight. Nobody could live them, even Waterford at their best, couldn't control them. So, but I think Cian out of it, and I'd be shocked, TJ, if he's fit, that Kylie wouldn't go with him, but maybe that's the confidence he hasn't led them. We saw Shemi Flanagan stepping up the last day, Mark, but it's like going by the league match. Go back to the league match, TJ referenced it. Geez, that night I thought this could be the All-Ireland final, and we're getting it now in the All-Ireland semi-final. Yeah.
But sure, come here to me. We hung our hats in the league on Waterford, and look where that led us down to. Do you know what I mean? And Cork as well being in the league. But listen, for me, the Cian Lynch, Kyle Hayes is the big question mark now, because Kyle's hasn't been a success in the forward line. And I think if Kylie is looking at an All-Ireland final, and I'm very clear-cut in this, there's nothing other than a Limerick victory for me on Sunday. And I think they'll win with a bit of spare now, to be honest with it. They certainly, if it was in racing, there could be a possibility that the handicapper could be putting them up about 12 pounds after Sunday, because I think Kilkenny, I think what I've seen from Galway so far, I'm not impressed with them, to be fair. Early in the season, yes, the Henry factor, all that kind of stuff, but The Leinster final for me, the match against Cork, haven't seen it live. I just said to myself, I don't see there being massive upside at all in Galway. Yes, there's a day in every team, but this Limerick team are like a well-oiled machine. They don't do bad performances. They're coming to the business end of the season. They won in All-Ireland last year by 18 or 20 points, and we're thinking that possibly Galway could pucker out to them on Sunday. There's no chance of that on Sunday. The biggest thing for Limerick is they'll be getting their team ready for the All-Ireland final against Clare. That's what they'll be looking. Sorry, Hoagie. I think the boys, I think Clare will get through.
Well, if you have Limerick winning so easily, Clare have to win.
Come here. The question Kylie will have to be answering this weekend, right, is what am I going to do with Kyle Hayes for the All-Ireland final? What am I going to do for Cian Lynch? I need to get a game into Cian Lynch because I can't spring him. I can't start him in the All-Ireland final and he tears a hamstring after 20 minutes. A bit like Henry a couple of years ago, had a huge detrimental effect on the psychology of the team, taking off the best player 20 minutes into the game. So for me, Dalo, and Kylie he's made hard decisions. You know, Richie English was a standout cornerback, got injured, failed to come back into the team. You know, will Kylie put back Kyle Hayes, wing back? Which one of the backs is going to lose out? There's some hard decisions, but I see Cian Lynch definitely starting at the weekend, and the question is who's going to be left out for him.
Yeah, it's a huge conundrum, I suppose. Is there room for them all up there? Maybe with throwing a curveball with Kyle on the edge of the square and forcing Galway's hand to leave Dahi Burke because of the sheer size of Kyle, Glenn the corner, Flanagan the other corner maybe, and Cian back. But TJ doesn't think he'll start, so and TJ knows more than we always know on Limerick. So yeah, I think, lads, this could be a twist in this, Mark. I don't think this is as clear cut. I think, honestly, no. I think all was looking okay for Galway. They beat Kilkenny and Saltail. Okay, it was tight. They should have beaten Wexford the drawn match. They missed a lot. I suppose they did against Kilkenny. They were flat the last. I think the Leinster final drained a bit out of them. I think the side shows about the shake hands and everything got in the heads. I think Cody kind of won that battle in some ways for the Leinster final. I'm not saying Henry, he's new to it, this level. Cody would be totally in his own zone there, I'd say. I just think there could be a day in him. I'd be worried if I was a Limerick man. I still think Limerick will come through. I'd be worried though. Layoff and Galway been written off, and they've been traditionally very, very dangerous in semi-finals. I don't think it's clear cut.
Dalo, is renting tactically that you can see being shown here? Like one of the things, like each game, as we know, is different, right? Like the way Galway have been playing with lining out Cathal Mannion at 15, and then he's deployed, let's say, further out the field, and then obviously the last day, Brian, Mikey Butler followed him nearly everywhere, even when Cathal Mannion came back to the 45-yard line, as deep as that, Mikey Butler followed him, right? Limerick won't do that. Right, so we have potentially a different game there, and like Cathal Mannion will get a bit of space around the middle of the field, a little bit like Tony Kelly did. So that potentially is a plus for Galway if they can get their game going.
Yeah, and I think Hoagie touched on it. I'd love to see a bit more consistency from Conor Cooney. He's a fantastic hurler. You know, you would have seen him up close, TJ. But you're just not at 11. I'm not so sure. And would the chance pop and wheeling out? Under no circumstances would I take Joseph Cooney out. I'd start Johnny Cohen in the backs if I had to. I'd leave Joseph Cooney left half forward on Dermot Burns. I might start with Whelan at centre forward. You know?
Here's a curveball for Galway people, right? Even going back to that league game, the guy who started centre forward for Galway in the league game was Jack Hastings from Neil Mellows. Big, strong, different type of play. Yeah, different type of player to your Cathal Mannions and your Conor Whelans and Brian Concannons, and he did a job for them. And it maybe allowed, let's say, a Conor Cooney to maybe be more in the hurling side of it rather than being in the thick of the physicality as a centre forward. So it's possibly something like that. And Henry being in those Kilkenny setups for years and stuff, we might know that maybe something a little bit different, something brave or a little bit curved is required. So it is possible that we could see something a little bit different. And I'm with you, Dalo, that yes, Limerick have done really well to get to here, given, let's say, the top quality players they've been missing out of their squad. But if you go back to the Munster final in the second half and Limerick and Clare, yes, it was a brilliant occasion. Yes, it was a brilliant game and we all remember it. But I think both Limerick and Clare will look back on that and say, you know what, there were scores that we missed and quality-wise we could have been a little bit better. So I would say that Henry will have studied the Limerick-Clare games possibly more so than any other games to say, what are they doing that's getting them so close? And I think we could see something, I won't say similar, but I think that with like Cathal Mannion playing in maybe aka Tony Kelly role or that type of stuff, I think this will be tight as well.
But TJ, Cathal Mannion going out the field won't worry Limerick one bit in the slightest, because Barry Nash will be sent after him, right? And the closer the Barry Nash gets to the goals, the better chance he has of scoring, because I think he has about 7 or 8 points scored from cornerback already this year. The other thing is that I think Clare had a hangover after the Munster final. It was such a physical game and they went to extra time. I think the extra couple of weeks to Limerick will be a big help to them in terms of getting getting fresh. Plus, remember Limerick were beaten by Kilkenny a couple of years back. Kilkenny led from the traps, and a lot of people said that, it was a long layoff that led to that poor performance by Limerick. I think Limerick are forewarned because the same management are there, and I think they'll really come fresh. And I think if they get out of the blocks early doors, because they've been forewarned from a couple of years back, I can't see anything but a comfortable Limerick victory on Sunday.
Okay. What do you think, Hoagie, calling it overall? Do you agree with Mark, or would you see it maybe the more, my TJ's only playing the fiddle there now, but I really see it as maybe being tricky. I think Galway plus 6 points in the handicap would be enticing me to have my tenner on that.
Yeah, I just on the Cathal Mannion piece, I'd see certain parallels with ourselves, the way we used to like and Limerick, in terms of the only time we went man to man, as in if someone tracking someone, was obviously Jackie one year when he was targeted to pick up Lar. Other than that, down the toilet and everything with him. Yeah, exactly, out into the dressing room. But we would have held our and backed our wing forwards and our midfielders with an extra man out there to work like dog. They were the ones that were going to close the space down. So the same way Limerick do, that Sean Finn or whoever, Barry Nash, will sit in front of the full back and sweep out. They'll back Hegarty and Morrissey and the 2 boys in midfield to make that worse. So there's not going to be space. So if that's the way it pans out, I think there's a huge onus on Mannion and Conor Cooney, if he plays centre forward, between them to try and get a couple of points from out the field, because Hannon likes to sit off a little bit and ask questions to Limerick, then say, right, well, Galway have an extra man out here and he's actually having an impact on the game. The last thing you want to do is to have an extra man out the field and for him not to be impacting the game, because you've got your man inside and completely, securing things. Because, and again, Mannion out the field, getting on the ball, he's looking for, putting the ball through the eye of a needle, because he's looking for 2 Galway lads inside on 3 Limerick guys. So he needs to, and he has the range, he has that in his capability to pop balls over the bar. And so I think those 2 boys, and then on top of that, as TJ mentioned, I think Galway do need to come up with something different, whether that's maybe Conor Whelan centre forward and running at Hannon or something, just something. It'll be too predictable if they put Conor in the edge of the square on Casey. Limerick will be ready for that, and the boys are physically strong enough. There'll be a great battle, but it'll just be too. I think Galway need to come up with and ask a few questions that they can make it uncomfortable for that Limerick half back line. Otherwise, it'll be a Limerick win all day, I think. And to be honest, even aside from that, I still think it's Limerick's game. I just, I do agree. I don't think it'll be a tough match for sure. I think Galway are a good side. They're well equipped to ask plenty of questions. As I said, in neighbouring counties, I think they'll raise their game. I think the euphoria of getting that tight win against Cork down in Thurles, you could see the emotion afterwards. They were clapping Henry. Henry is out with the players. There is a very good morale within that group. And I think getting McInerney back would be a huge addition. And I think they'll come, in the right mindset and ready to face Limerick. But I just think Limerick will have too much, whether they start a Lynch or bring him off the bench. I just think, they'll have enough to get over the line, with a couple of points to spare.
Yeah, I think I'd be kind of go along with you. Like, there's too many question marks with Galway, but I do think there could be a day in them. I just think Limerick, I don't know, just form is not savage, I don't think. I wouldn't be as convinced as you, Mark, but I still think they will have enough. I think that there's more definites that you can hang your hat on with them than Galway at the moment, and I'd see them coming through. But lads, it should be an exceptional weekend. I know, TJ, you're travelling up, and you're looking forward to 2 great games.
I'm travelling up, and I'm planning to meet yourself and Jackie T for a cup of tea at some stage, maybe tomorrow night after the game, and we'll digest our coffee. We'll digest the first game. I actually think it's 2 games where I think you'd like to be in control. I think you'd like to be kind of in the box seat, and then you'd like to be ahead. I think if Galway and let's say whether it's Clare or Kilkenny, I think it'll be important to be controlling the game, because there's an awful lot that the oppositions can do tactically, basically, which challenges them when you're behind. So as I said, I just think that the feeling I have is whichever team kind of gets in control here, like will control the games and maybe control tactically what happens on the best. But yeah, brilliant weekend to look forward to, and look, two cracking games. And historically, like, take out maybe a couple of them, right? Semi-finals are usually tight. And as I said, maybe we could have an all extra time and the first hurling penalty shootout, and hopefully we won't be talking some of the raw mesh that some of those football pundits were talking about there during the week,
Yeah. We'll say nothing about that. Although, yeah, what a weekend. And it's a fantastic hurling weekend, lads. And not alone the senior, but we've pined on this show, Mark, for maybe the Offaly's to come back, the Leashes to invest in these counties, to coach and underage. And, Leo Connor's gone to Offaly last 2-3 years. And obviously Mick with the seniors there, and, a bit unlucky not to be pushing on in McDonough, but probably will come. But minor final, 27,000 sellout, Mark, and they're worried about too many under-16s turning up. Isn't this incredible on Sunday? Like, and what a story! Like, and it's just where hurling can go, lads. If we back those few counties that can get back to the top and keep doubling up there, and it's some match to look forward to as well, isn't it?
Well, huge credit to obviously both teams for getting to the All-Ireland final, and as you all know, playing minor with your county since you're kind of 8, 9, 10 years of age, you always want to put on your county jersey, but the first real test is getting onto the minor team. But for teams to get to a minor All-Ireland final, it's a massive, massive occasion. And then to find out that your county and the supporters around you are going to pack out the stadium for the All-Ireland final, it's going to be some atmosphere there. It's on in Nolan Park. I had those free busloads because all the under-16s have been left in, so there's busloads coming from everywhere to get in to see the final. But I think great credit to Offaly, because I suppose they were one of the kingpins of hurling, I suppose, if you go back a decade or so, and they've slipped, obviously, on the senior side, but they've gone down to the grassroots and they've plucked the team again. And like you played against the Pinkeltons, the Dahi Regans, all those kind of guys. There are new names coming out, take up that mantle, and it's a fantastic final. One mention there there's a young lad O'Callaghan playing wing back for Tipperary. He's that Paul O'Callaghan hurled for SARS in Cork for years. So there's a small Cork connection there. It's only a small one, but we are hanging on to. We're obviously spreading the word, Dalo, like we left one of our own out, and it's great to see him coming through. But it's really, really good, and I suppose there's a part of me would hope that Offaly would win. Tip will be slight favourites for that game, I would suspect, but it would be fantastic to see Offaly winning the game.
Yeah, two very different semi-finals. Clare and Offaly was a tactical kind of edgy game. Offaly got the 2 goals, crucial. Clare didn't get any goal, and they won it by 4 points, I think. And the other one was a shootout. What a game. A lot of talk about this Galway team and Tip, who were after the layoff as well, after winning the penalties in Munster. But through a line of form, TJ, you'd have to give Offaly a great shout. Clare and Tip going right down to penalties and couldn't be separated, and Offaly coming out and beating Clare. So, yeah, we won't go making predictions on this one, but, it should make for a great close battle.
Yeah, brilliant for Leo O'Connor, a Limerick man who went up there. He was involved in the underage set up in Limerick for years, and in fairness to him, he took on a tough job up in Offaly when obviously it's a little bit different now when things maybe weren't as rosy. the strange thing about Offaly is this team was touted at the very start of this campaign as being a really, really good team. So the pressure was kind of on from within for them to deliver, and they've done that, and they've brought massive colour and crowds to all the way through. Because we remember that the game against Laois in the Leinster final, where there's a massive crowd
Monday
again on a Monday night, or whatever, right? So, yeah. Brilliant. And for them to sell out Nolan Park, I know some people were kind of saying, why wouldn't they have played it in Croke Park, maybe ahead of one of the other two games? But look, they've gone down this road. It'll be maybe a little bit difficult for maybe the travelling Limerick and Galway fans, because the game's on TV, I think, at 1:30, so they won't see it. But brilliant occasion for the two teams. And I suppose, look, from a neutral point of view, if Offaly can get back up the ladder, this would be massive again for them. I know that, let's say, Michael Guyton and Shane Lowry and co and all them have done a huge amount to get everybody on track up there, and it's definitely heading in the right direction. And this would be another massive feather in the cap for them.
Yeah, and fairness to Digger, like, it wasn't an easy job to go in and try and get in there. He did an awful job. I think he could. His eyes were open to trying to get the job. He thought maybe that would be easy bit of it. It was the job. I think that was the hard bit, was moving. We've even seen it in Clare here. I think with Kieran Keaton coming in as chairman, it's been a breath of fresh air. Do you know? I think it's paying off for them. Pat has announced he's stepping down. 32 massive years. He's seen unbelievable success. I think it was time for change, and it is time for change. But God, we won 3 All-Irelands while he was there as secretary, so must be done something right over the years. But look, lads, should be unbelievable weekend. After a lot of heartbreak, lads, and a lot of tough times after the loss of Damien in Onrua in Dungannon, and a lot of mourning, and couldn't get up to the funeral. I would have liked to get up, but just the way it fell for me, with it going into the weekend, I couldn't get up. And I know a lot of people travelled up. I just saw Lauren Gilfoyle on Twitter saying herself and Tommy went up. Tommy be great. Small bit of bad health there, but he's flying it again. But yeah, look, terrible, but the boys are back, and they're back on the horse, as hurling people do. They're back training. I see on Twitter there, the lads are back, and they're going to fulfil and to thank the Antrim County Board for allowing them a bit of space. They play in the Antrim Senior League, obviously, and they're back on the horse, and that's what Damien would have wanted. And obviously that means we're back with the fantasy hurling, lads. And you have 4 changes to make. Our league is probably over, even though the man in second place might disagree. He's already made his feelings known on who'll be in the final, so he'll be going strong there. The captaincy pick could be crucial. He's chasing down, but he's coming to Beechers the second time round, and he has still about 18 lengths to make up on TJ. And we all know the research now that's going on in Gary Spillane into this, Mark. There's no way of catching him, Mark. I don't think whatever changes you make, he's gone. He's bolted.
I need an Aaron Shanahan from that league match that they played against Dalo. Something that's scored 3-3, but you never say never, because I was there when the Shawnee McGrath, Owen Cadigan and Brian Hogan section there, right over on the far right.
He's 200.
In the what they call that, the small hurley, the wooden spoon. I thought I'd have to be getting Sam Allardyce out to you at one stage, but you steadied the ship, so you had a big week last week. But I'm not going to give up Dalo on this kid, because TJ was gone so far in front to the foregone conclusion, but I won't give up yet.
Mark, should you not be saying we, since you got a team of lads behind you picking the team, as opposed to I? It's a bit disingenuous, isn't it? No?
Fact, Brian.
Hoagie, you'd want to make a couple of changes now while you're lying by the pool there today.
I tell you, yeah, it'd be a start anyway to make a few changes. Since I missed the last transfer window, I just went to McDonald's with the young lad on the way up to the Leinster final, and someone said it to me, "Did you make your changes?" I was like, "Oh Christ!" So I knew I was in for a world of hurt the next time I came on here.
You should have rang Larry. Larry gets to make late changes now. That's why Larry flies up there at the end of it. No, he's well in with the boys in on road there. Yeah. Cahill does let him make changes there just before the throwing. When there's some fella popped in, Larry could pop him in as his captain, you know. So anyway, there's our listeners' league, lads. Kieran,
I'm on the board.
In front there, is it? TJ, you're up there.
Kieran Carrick.
Yeah, well done. It's hard to see it a small bit there, lads. We'll try and blow it up for Monday.
Yeah, my Rovers.
Yeah, my Rovers, great. Savage score. TJ, you're not out of that. It'd be unreal for one of us to win that, TJ.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of hoping, that you might help me over the next 24 hours when the teams are picked tonight. I might I'll pop you a message on the WhatsApp and see if you can do something for me, if we can pull another rabbit, because it'd be nice to get one of us close to the right top, wouldn't it? So we're
Who
all
was
in
your
this
captain
together.
coming into the weekend? I know now you haven't
Oh,
made any changes yet. Who was your captain, your outgoing captain, or your current captain?
TK.
You won't swap him out.
Well, will he be hitting
Yeah,
the freeze? I see Owen Marnon there. Shout
He
out
was
to
off
Owen
the
there.
freeze.
Yeah. The top 10 there as well on in his time and by the green and gold, the hurling club, and mostly the black and white, the football end of it there. But hope things are going well in the States. So look, big changes. Will Peter Duggan be taking over the freeze? Will TJ be tempted to make a change to seal the deal?
Yeah.
We wish everyone the best of luck in that. We'll discuss further on Monday when we know who's
Marco,
hit the
who
lights
did you
out.
tell me, Mark, you were picking as your captain? Again?
I didn't.
You didn't. Okay. I actually, okay.
The lads
TJ,
have to
how
go
do
now.
you, if you want to ship out your captain, TJ, and you want to still make 4 changes, what do you have to do? Come on, you're the expert on
Well,
this now. You studied this at night.
You have 2 choices, right? If you want to change your captain, it's considered a move,
Yeah.
right? But if you drop your captain, right, it's not, because then you have a free play then as captain.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So
that'd be
Mark,
all
You
right.
have
if
to
you
do it
Chin
in the
or-
last transfer.
Yeah. Well, Marco has Lee Chin as captain, so when he loses Lee Chin this week, because he's obviously not playing, now he's got a free pick as captain. So it depends.
And Chin was a big help to me now, to be fair to him, the last day. And he should have got a penalty.
Dougie.
No, I
You have to gamble,
I have me man picked. I have me man picked.
That's a Kilkenny man.
But I
so
just
no,
won't be telling you, you scallywags.
Yeah. It could be Cian Lynch. Could be Snaily one.
No,
Yeah.
no, won't be Cian Lynch.
We'll have teams tonight.
Dermot Burns. He's in the team.
All I said is he'll be on the freeze. He'll be on the freeze. Who takes the penalties for you, TJ?
Oh,
Glenn,
Aaron Gillen. We don't get penalties, Mac.
Let's play before we go off the air. You had a great night, Mark. We alluded to it at the start. You had a great. You're having great nights most nights of the week, the 2 of you. But look, as Hoagie says, he's on a bit of a holiday now. I might get one later on the year, but the colour of my
Brilliant.
Who's the lady in the background? Hoagie, this is a savage move. Hoagie.
Tom Cruise.
Oh, brilliant. Larry, Tom Hodge.
I tell you, there's no doubt right, that fellas have too much time in their hands in doing up their yolks. Is that a pool cue or a hurley?
It's a pool cue.
He's talking.
That unfortunately for my wife, it has to be Louise, because she had the misfortune of driving us last Friday night, picking us up in Bruff and looking after us. Macon, we mightn't have been in the best of states, huh?
In fairness, she would have dropped us some chips and curry, but was a bit late.
You weren't even out of Clackies in time for the chipper. Clacky.
No, say no more, Dalo. Say no more. You could be incriminating us all here, like, you know.
Clacky.
No, the chip was closed very early in Bruff.
Well, just as the ball is about to be thrown in Croke Park, Marco, we'll know whether Purple Gown has done the business at Naas, will we?
Oh, that's yeah. So I suppose just on the command racing, thanks to everybody who turned up on Wednesday evening in Tipperary. It was fantastic, and Literatus, after I suppose a ropey enough start in Gordon, our first runner, and we still have a lot of members. There's about 150 people who have expressed an interest in joining the racing club, and we're putting a shout out here because we're going to, I suppose the paid up members are allowed to go to Willie Mullins's on the 9th of April, and we'd love to see a few more of the people who expressed an interest to join the racing club. But that's up to, for some reason,
9th of July, yeah.
You know, people may or may not be in a position to join, but if they are, please get the membership in. It's a bit like I'm a bit like the treasurer of the Killa club now, lads. Is there any chance we can have the last few fellas pay the membership for the year, lads? Because it's now in July and we started from way back. But anyway, we're crack. But Purple Gown runs has been declared by Jim on Saturday at 5:25 in Naas. I don't know, Dalo, will I be able to go or not yet? I'm minding the horses and foals for the weekend, so if I could shoot up, I would. And maybe catch the match on the way back on the TV, I would go. But I think Purple Gown could be a little bit like Literatus, she might have a squeak each way.
Okay, well said. And we'll obviously the paid up members will get the little bit of news on that overnight and maybe early tomorrow. So the best of luck. I doubt Joanne will turn on the racing channel for me 5 minutes before the ball is thrown in by Fergal Hogan. So we'll look at racing is racing. All Ireland semi-finals are all Ireland semi-finals.
Have your phone on vibrate on the pocket, right? And we'll send you if you could feel the phone vibrating at about 5:35. There's good news ahead.
Okay, yeah, we'll be locked on. So look, the best of luck to put it down, and hopefully she might do the business. You never know.
Marco, anything else for us to keep an eye out during the week, Mark? And any other horse that we might just keep that little coming?
No. We had Sean Hannity's horse in the number 2 spot last night in Tipperary. Rose Mallar 20-1. If you were on yesterday, I would probably have said to you she'd have a good chance. And in fairness, she'd had a great ride from Shane Fitzgerald to finish second. There was a down in the pack, unfortunately, TJ. They could be getting a big rise in the weights, I'd say, after the performance last night. But no, not at the moment. But I'm sure there'll be plenty more opportunities coming.
Okay, lads. Any progress, TJ? I'm getting a lot of progress, lads. But I'll give a quick run through them now in a sec.
No, I'll leave it to you this week, Dalo. I might have a couple from Monday or whatever. So I think we have a nice Monday to look forward to. We might be coming to you from a really exciting location on Monday morning. So talking about the All-Ireland semi-final. So watch this space.
Yeah.
Well, man, TJ, but you're keeping the cat in the bag. I like that.
Good stuff. We'll have to be home and in bed early Sunday night.
Yes.
Just a couple of bits, lads. Just couple of bits and pieces to run through. Just like to thank the lads from Partine and Kilbrittain, Jamie Wall's crew. Great day Saturday. The Partine lads, great form with the Hawaiian shirts on them, and a happy birthday belated. Like obviously we wish the team here, but Joe English and the group from Killaloo who were staying in Kilrush, they had a great crack, and I enjoy dropping you back into Kilrush, lads. The stories gone in and were unbelievable. Dwayne, this is amazing when you're the sober driver at the end of the night. I can imagine what Louise was listening to last Friday night.
I think it was nothing.
Nothing. Yeah, but a shout out to those. Just a quick shout out, lads. Obviously the time will be getting short after the weekend, but Kilmacud Sevens, obviously close contacts with Kilmacud Crokes. What a day that is, lads. And going ahead this year, first time ever in July, so it's new for them as well. But any clubs that are interested, or some of them be out of the championship, sure, it's been run so quick. They'll have plenty of time to go and enjoy it. And it's a great day. Been involved in it with Clarecastle, with Kilmacud as well, and it's a fantastic day out. So there, get your teams in there quick, I'd say, because that'll fill up fairly quick. And just a shout out, lads, for a fundraiser for cancer research, I think, and it's St. Francis Hospice in Dublin and Breakthrough Cancer Research and MEV Tavior. Just tragic loss in August 2020 of Helen O'Leary, Helen Gannan, as she would have been known up this way. She's a great camogie player with Troke and Clare. And just to show, Owen gave me a shout, her husband. They're going cycling from Malin to Mizzen, raising all money for all those charities. And it'd be great if people just have a look, GoFundMe, cycle for Helen, throw a couple of bob, lads. It's all, we don't know when any of this will visit our own doors, and has and will at times. And so anything we could do, and I know Helen was a great, she would have loved the hurling, and she was great pals with the Clonlara lads, and really enjoyed 13, I suppose, especially, and would love to be there at the weekend, and we'd be thinking of Owen and the lads who they're starting the cycle on Sunday. So he's a good Cork man, Mark. So he wasn't over. It's Sunday the 17th. Sorry, the day of the final. So Mark Owen O'Leary, even though a great Cork hurling man, he wasn't that confident either, Mark, of being there at Croke Park on the final day. He knows it's a 5-year plan. But lads, no, shout out to the lads doing the cycle and people on the route, and I hope that's a massive success for you, Owen. And we may give it a plug again before it, and the build up to the All-Ireland for you, because I think it's a great bantry man. And look, hopefully that goes goes well for you. And a quick shout out to my nephew Thomas in Camden Town, who listens to us every week and is getting fits of laughing. Arsenal supporter like Larry, and will be very worried with the Tottenham movement. Richarlison now on the way to White Hart Lane. Mark, what do you make of that? Like, we're signing left, right, and centre.
We're not allowed to discuss soccer on this program. You taught me a long time ago.
No, that was rugby.
Only for Spurs, is it?
That was rugby, mate.
Yeah. No,
so
let's come to focus. Tom Kenny, a man that has played his Australia in the middle of the field for a long, long time. He's been a great player. His dad passed away this week, so just to send up commiserations to Tom and his family. And we bumped into a buddy of yours, Dalo, a former classmate by the name of Jerry Kelly, the #1 vet, I would say, probably in the world, over in Feathered. I had a little filly there, and I just to thank Jerry and the team, Jesus and Rebecca in Feathered, for making sure she was in the departure lounge a couple of times. You know, if you're watching those medical programs and they say clear paddles, but anyway, they brought her back to life again, and she is bucking and rearing. So Jerry and the team in Feathered, thanks very much. And I know he's a big listener to the podcast as well. So
GK often took me out of a holt as well, Mark, with the homework and Flannans. I tell you, when I'd have nothing done, no better man. He was a border there. Great footballer as well, Jerry. Obviously played full back for that great Clare team that beat Kerry in '92. Top man, GK, great bloke. He was a great. We weren't always great friends with all the borders, you know, but GK was one of those that we were great friends with. Top man.
Absolutely.
Big success.
No problem.
Great stuff. TJ. Last word, Hoagie. Factor 50 now. When are you back, Hoagie?
Factor 50.
Back on Saturday week, Dalo. I have 3 things to do now. Yeah, I have 3 things to do today. I have to pay Landers his pocket money. Sorry, I mean the membership for Come On Racing. I have to pick me team for fancy hurling, and then I have to head to the pool for the rest of the afternoon. So that's me done.
And have you the Irish bar picked out to watch the game in, like?
Oh, I have. Don't ask me the name of it, but it's in a village 2 over from here. We're not in Santini, but the next one over. It's about a 15-minute drive, so we're well sorted. Don't worry about that.
Okay. I'll be thinking of you. Mr. Turrell will cover me for you, as he often covered for you and you for him and over the years. So he'll watch me anyway. Don't worry. You'll be under control. I'll be controlled in the square, as Mick Shade said. So great stuff, lads. Hopefully
Elton John tonight, Dalo. Will I see you? Elton John tonight.
Elton John.
Obviously, the county board didn't feel that we had a chance to get to the All-Ireland final either, so we'll put Elton John tonight in Park.
You must have all the debt paid off at this stage between Ed Sheeran and Elton John, and who else was there?
But so, hey, come here. We're getting the money from the outside manager in the future. Will you try that?
It's very evident that an old cock one that I learned you have the price of an echo. Down at the moment. Things are bad like it. He's cut off his
Press that mute button there, Dalo, quick.
Yeah, just mute him, Larry, will you? So look, thanks, folks. I hope you enjoyed the journey to Dublin, and if we shorten it a bit, that'd be great as well. So, Hoagie, enjoy the rest of it out there. I hope you don't have to look forward to an All-Ireland kid, but if you do, sure, we'd be used to that. We know what you bring. So, great stuff. Thanks, lads, and safe travelling for everyone, and I hope great hurling, 2 big All-Ireland semi-finals and an All-Ireland minor final. So, best of luck to everybody, and over and out from us on a Friday morning, which is unusual, and Mick Shea is not outside waiting to get in. Thanks to our sponsors, Renault. The Renault Capture, the versatile, compact family SUV.
You're still the one I run to, the one that I belong to. You're still the one I want for life.
A grain of rice, a grain of rice is going to tip the scale. Just remember that, lad.
There's a small bit of a needle there.
Come on, Mayo, you've got to get Andy Moran into the game.
Our mission was to show that we're no longer the whipping boys of Munster.